The ambush on Mechanic Street. The unsolved murder of Eddy Phalen. It was a Tuesday night in late October. Halloween was days away. The neighborhood was quiet. A 44-year-old man kissed his family goodbye, walked out his front door, got in his van, and drove 2 minutes to the corner store. He bought cigarettes. He drove home. He pulled into his yard on Mechanic Street in Trenton, Nova Scotia. And someone who had been waiting for him, someone who knew exactly when he'd be back, shot and killed him. Inside the house, his wife was putting their 4 children to bed. She heard what she thought were fireworks. To understand who Eddy Phalen was, you first need to understand the town he came from. Trenton, Nova Scotia, is a small industrial town of about 2,400 people sitting on the east bank of the East River, immediately next door to New Glasgow. Its motto, "And this is real," is "Strike while the iron is hot." That slogan comes from the town's bones. Trenton was the site of the first steel mill in Canada, built in 1882 and 1883. For well over a century, the town's identity was built on steel, forges, railcar manufacturing, and the hands of working people. The Trenton Works factory employed thousands, workers from all over Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, even Alberta and the United States, who came here to build things with their hands. By 2007, the plant employed 2,200 people. Then it closed. That closure, quietly, slowly, changed Trenton. The town lost businesses, schools, doctors' offices. It became the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where old wounds linger, and where secrets travel on the air. It is the kind of town where a man can be shot dead on his own street, and someone in the community can know exactly who did it and still say nothing. For 14 years, WHO was Eddy. William Edward Phalen, known to everyone who loved him as Eddy, was born in New Glasgow in 1967. He grew up in Trenton and spent his whole life there, the kind of man who was woven into the fabric of his neighborhood. He had worked as a welder at the Trenton Works, the same factory that had employed generations of Trenton men before him. Later, he worked in upholstery. He was a member of First United Church in Trenton. He was, above all, a family man. Eddy had 4 children, Carissa, Edward, Sarah, and Haley. His wife was Veronica Mackenzie Phalen. His parents, Ed and Carol Phalen, lived close by. His brother Randy was in town. This was a man surrounded by family, embedded in his community, known on his street. His mother, Carol, would later describe him simply. He'd pop by unannounced. He'd ask what she was cooking. He'd call out to his friends. He was present and loud and alive. Eddy was also, by some accounts, a man who had struggled. The RCMP would later say, obliquely, that they follow evidence regardless of a person's background or history. Careful, coded language that suggests Eddy's life was not uncomplicated. He may have known people on the wrong side of things. He may have been involved in circles that carried risk. But here is the question that his mother has asked out loud, to police for 14 years. Who deserves to be killed? The last on the evening of October 25, 2011, Eddy Phalen stopped by his mother Carol's house. She was making fudge, chocolate fudge, ahead of Halloween. "Oh, what do you got there, Mom?" That's how Carol remembers him saying it. She offered him a piece. His friend was waiting in a van outside. She called the friend in, too. He thanked her for the fudge, and they left. That was the last time Carol Phalen saw her son alive. At approximately 7:45 that evening, Eddy left his home on Mechanic Street and drove to the local convenience store. The police investigation established this clearly. A short errand, minutes from his front door. The kind of trip a person takes 100 times without a second thought. He bought cigarettes. He came home. He pulled his van into the yard on Mechanic Street, and he was shot and killed. Police believe that the suspect, or suspects, had been waiting for him. This was not a random encounter. This was not a robbery gone wrong. Someone knew Eddy's routine. Someone knew he would leave, and when he would return. They waited in the dark on Mechanic Street, and when his headlights pulled in, they were ready. Inside the house, Veronica Phalen was getting the children ready for bed. She heard 2 loud bangs. She thought it was fireworks. Then she went outside. The aftermath police flooded Mechanic Street within minutes. Roads in Trenton were blocked off into the early hours of Wednesday morning. Officers went door to door looking for information, for witnesses. For anyone who saw something, witnesses had heard the shots. At least one person reportedly saw a suspect fleeing the scene on foot. But in the confusion of the night, the dark, the October cold, the shock, Critical details slipped away. Eddy Phalen was pronounced dead at the scene. He was 44 years old, his 4 children. The youngest, Haley, still small, had a father until that Tuesday night. Then they didn't. The community was already on edge. It had been more than 2 weeks since 19-year-old Amber Kirwan went missing in nearby New Glasgow. Police were asked whether there was any connection between the 2 cases. They said it was premature to speculate. In the days that followed, Trenton went quiet in the way that small towns go quiet after violence. Everyone talking behind closed doors, nobody talking to police. The investigation fell to the Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit. From the beginning, the facts pointed clearly in one direction. This was a targeted killing, an ambush, someone with motive and knowledge and patience. Police quickly established that Eddy's routine was known. The convenience store trip was short, maybe 10 minutes total. Whoever waited for him either already knew he would go, or had been watching the house and moved fast. Either way, it required planning. Despite the targeted nature of the crime, despite the witnesses who heard gunshots and saw someone running, despite years of investigation, no arrest has ever been made. No one has ever been charged. The RCMP has no official cold case designation. When asked about the Phalen case, their public statements have been careful and consistent. The murder of Edward Phalen remains under investigation. Police still believe there are people who have information that could result in an arrest and charges. Translation: they believe someone in this community, possibly someone who has been living in or near Trenton for 14 years, knows who killed Eddy Phalen. The family's grief. Veronica Phalen described the aftermath of losing her husband in words that need no embellishment. "You can't even imagine," she said. "Every second of every day, it's like a nightmare you just don't wake up from." His mother, Carol, moved out of Trenton a few years ago. A lifetime in that town now behind her. She lives in a retirement apartment in New Glasgow. She still thinks about Eddy every day. She thinks, in darker moments, about his killer. "I hope their life is miserable," she said, "as miserable as mine." Carol once went to the police and asked them directly, "I want to know if you're allowed to kill something and get away with it." They looked at one another, she said. It's still ongoing. She eventually asked to see her son's autopsy report. At first, she couldn't bring herself to read past the words, "multiple gunshots." When she finally felt ready years later, she was told the report was no longer available to her. "I'm still in the dark," she said in 2025. "I still want to know." Carol Phalen is a woman in her late 70s in a retirement apartment, carrying 14 years of unanswered grief. She has watched every anniversary of her son's death come and go. She has watched other families bury their children and find justice. She is still waiting. The burning questions these case has lingered for 14 years, and the questions that remain are uncomfortable ones. First, who was waiting on Mechanic Street? The ambush-style killing, someone lying in wait for a specific person to return to a specific address at a specific time, requires prior knowledge. Either someone in Eddy's life gave that information away, or someone close to his world decided he needed to die and planned it carefully. Second, why has no one come forward? In a town of 2,400 people, where everyone knows everyone, where gossip travels at the speed of a phone call, how does a targeted murder go unsolved for 14 years? The RCMP believes people have information. That means the silence is chosen. And chosen silence in a murder case is its own kind of statement. Third, what did witnesses see? At least one person reportedly saw a suspect flee on foot in a small town in October on a residential street. Who was that? Where did they go? Someone knows. And fourth, is justice still possible? 14 years is a long time. Memories fade, as investigators themselves have acknowledged. People move away or die, evidence ages, but cold cases do get solved. Sometimes it takes one person deciding that the secret they've been keeping isn't worth carrying anymore. Eddy Phalen was a welder, an upholsterer, a churchgoer. He was a husband and the father of 4 children. He was a man who stopped by his mother's house unannounced, ate a piece of her chocolate fudge, and then went home to die on his own street before the night was out. He has been on the Nova Scotia Department of Justice's rewards for major unsolved crimes list for 14 years, frozen in time in a photograph waiting. Somebody in this community knows who killed Eddy Phalen. Somebody has known for 14 years. If that person is watching this, or if someone who knows them is watching this, the number is simple. Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit, 902-896-5070 Nova Scotia Crime Stoppers, Anonymous, 1-800-222-8477 Provincial Rewards Line, 1-888-710-989. $150,000 reward is still on the table.